Hello everyone, welcome back to VOH Academy. Up till this point, every script we've written has been nothing more than a list of commands executed from top to bottom. That is useful, but that's not really automation, right? Real infrastructure scripts make decisions. They check whether a server is healthy, they verify the big space, the CPU, they confirm if services are running, and they stop deployment if something is wrong. So in today's session, we are going to build our first real health check script. So that's the kind of logic that's used in the CI/CD pipeline, deployment tools, and production operations, where you're checking our CPU usage, disk usage, and all of that. So let's get started. So this is our scenario. We receive a ticket from our manager saying that every script that we run so far has just been a list of commands. In order with no decision making. That is not enough for real world infrastructure. So it is asking that we need a script that checks if a server is healthy before deploying to the server. You know that all apps, applications run on server. So you need to check if the server is healthy before they deploy, and then if it's healthy, that's the only time that you can now deploy. So that's where it comes, the CI/CD pipeline comes in. So there's a health check that checks the state of the server, the health of the server before proceeding to deploy the application on the server. And this requires variables that hold information and conditionals that make decisions. So this is what we'll be building, and this is what you will learn in this session. So what is a variable? A variable it holds a value that you can reuse. So like in this session, I have spun up an EC2 which has an IP address, a public IP. So I'm going to give it the variable name IP and equal sign, and I'm going to type in the IP address right there, and I click enter. Now, if I do echo and I put the dollar sign and I do IP, equal IP, you see it gives me back that IP address. So that's the variable. I've assigned this IP address, I've assigned it the name IP. So whenever I say equal IP, it's going to give me back this value that I give to it. So the same thing happening here. But then note this, because this is what usually trips off beginners, right? This space right here, there shouldn't be any space. So if I was starting this IP, I shouldn't have the space after the equal sign, because then Bash will think that its name is the command. It will think that my variable is a command instead of seeing it as a variable. Okay, so I already gave this kind of example, but of course, practice with what is on the script, which will be in the GitHub repo. Okay, so then you can also capture command output. You can store the result of the command in a variable using this. So in this scenario, we are going to give this variable name today, and this is the value that we want it to have. So let me do that. Copy this, paste that down here. Very quite copy. So now it's copied, and I paste that down here. Now if I do echo and I put the dollar sign and I put the date, it gives me the date, right? You can also do, let's say, switch out the hyphen sign with slash, because that's how the date appears in some cases. And then we do echo, see, there's the date, but now it has slashes. So that's how it captures command output. Then we also have exit code. So exit code returns like if a command succeeded, it returns a zero. So zero means success. But if it's a non-zero number that returns when we run it, it shows that the command failed. So if we run something like this command right here, list the temp folder, ESD. So that's the temp folder, right? So if we exit, Okay. So that entity interface into this system that is turned off. So I'm going to use the variable that I assigned to IT. Oh, sorry, it timed out, so I need to reassign that variable. Let me copy the IP address. Go back to and okay, so I'm in. All right, so now let's list CMP. So you're getting the files or the folders within this folder. So let's see if the command was successful. So we're checking exit code. So you see 0, why? Because the command was successful. Let's list a file that doesn't exist, a folder that doesn't exist called file. If we run that, it gives us an error, but then we also echo and see the exit code. You see, it gives us exit code 2. So this is a non-zero exit code. If it's non-zero number, it means failure. Okay, and this is how you can incorporate it into a script. So another foundation, this is the foundation of all decision making in script, the if statement. So we have to use conditional, the if statement that says if a condition is met, then do this, if true. Else, if another condition, then do this. If this true is false, else do this if none of the above is true. And this is FI, the end of the if statement, right? That's the reverse of if. So if you also notice there's a space between the sign, the symbol, this symbol right here. Okay? Else, if this is not there, it's not going to work. So something like this has input. So this works, but if that space is not there, this does not work. Okay, so we're going to see all of that as we start once we start the lab. So we have the comparison operators, we have the EQ equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than, and all of that. And we have the strings, and then the file operator and their meaning right there. So let's go ahead and start with the lab for today. So you can go ahead and create the folders and the files that you need for this lab. For part 1, we're going to be dealing with variable basics. For that, we're going to create a file named variables practice.sh. You can use numeric to create that, or you can use vi. So I'm going to be using vi and the file name. I use the I to insert, and then I'm going to copy this. Okay, so I copy the script starting from here. So I'm going to explain what the script does. Just give me a moment. Okay, that's the end of the script right here. I copy that, and then I paste it in here, and I save. Now it's time to run the script. Okay, so I've run the script, and this is what the script does. So if you look here, you see first, it says, let's start from the beginning. Okay, so here we've assigned a variable, and so you gave the name, server name to this value, you gave this value to it. Then the server port 8080, and then echo. Echo is what actually responds on our screen. That's what the output we are going to see. Whatever is echo is saying, that's what we are going to see. So we are telling it to echo server and server name. This is server name. This is the variable right here. And the value we give to this variable is VOH dev 01. That's exactly what it did. Echo server. So it just gave us server VOH dev 01. Then we also told this to echo port. And then the value that we're going to give port, that we give to port, is 8080, and that's exactly what it gave us down here. And then we also told it for the next line of command, we told it to give it the current date and then current user. So these are the two variables we gave, and this is the values that the variable is supposed to give. So we now told it to echo today is, it should give us this date, and also running as, it will now give us the name of the user, which is exactly what it did here. Today is the date and running as Ubuntu, right? Because we gave you this command. If you run who am I over here, it gives us Ubuntu. So this command is actually what it's the input in here. So when echo says running as, this is the variable, gives us the value of the variable, which is who am I, which is Ubuntu. That's what it gave us there, running as Ubuntu. And then the last portion of that code, no, the third portion, and it says log path. So this is the log path. And we gave it, we told it echo log path. So it's simply going to give us log path, and then it gives us this value right here. But then if you see there's a variable inside the curly bracket. So it's like a placeholder for this variable. And what is our server name? Let's go up. Server name is VOH dev 01. So if you look here now, you see that in this space, it actually put that server name. So it gave us var log VOH, which is the value we gave here, and then the placeholder that was holding this variable in place for us. And then it gave us the name of that server because we already assigned this variable a value that I just showed us, and then .log. Okay, so the last portion of the code says max tries, and we give it a value. Current retry, we give it a value. Next retry, we also give it a value. But this is doing arithmetic, because we are telling it current retry plus 1. So current retry is 1, then plus 1 is going to be 2. So we now told it to echo retry, then give us the value of current retry, which is 1, of mass retry, which is 3, next attempt, next retry. So next retry is going to be value of current retry, which is 1, plus 1, which is 2. And that's exactly what it gave us here. Retry 1 of 3, next attempt 2. Right? That's exactly what it gave us back what we assigned. So you see what is happening right now. We've written our first script. So now let's go ahead and also write another script that takes user input. So to do that, we are going to create another file called input practice.sh. So I use vi to create that. I use I to insert my values, and then I populate the script. So this is a script that takes input from us. I save that. Okay, so now if I should run the script, let me shift this up a little bit. Let me clear my screen. If I run back input practice, so it's asking me this question right here. So let's go to the beginning of our script. So the script says, echo, what server are you deploying to? And then read server name. So read is waiting for my input. It's waiting for my input. So that's why as I run it, it says, what server are you deploying to? And I say Ubuntu. You could put anything. Then I click enter. The next question is how many instances? So it takes a read from me as well. And I say one instance and I click enter and it summarizes what we did. And that is echo summary deploying to server name. Which name did I give it up here? You see the variable name. So I gave it Ubuntu, and that's exactly what it did here. Deploying to Ubuntu. Then instance count, and we also give this value when we answer the question, and it's one that we gave, and that is it right here. Right. So that's also another way, another use of variables in scripting. Okay, so now let's move to part 3, where we are going to run our first if statement. And for that, we are going to be creating another file called ifpractice.sh. So let's give me a second here. Let me. File name. With that, and now I'm going to run it. Okay, so now the script is simply saying the script says is given this value 8080 to this variable. Now it says if false is equal to 80, then echo standard HTTP output. Else, if false is equal to 443, then echo standard HTTP port, HTTPS port. Else, if false is greater than 1024, then echo non-privileged port above 1024. Else, echo privileged system port below 1024. That's end of the script right there. So now you see that we given the port this value. So the value is going to give us is greater than 1024. And this is what it has to equal. Non-privileged port above 1024. But let's go ahead now and edit that script. This is edit script and give, let's say, we give it port 80, save that, and then we run the script again. You see the response is different. Because now, given the value, given this port variable, the value 80, and for 80 equal to 80 is going to give us standard HTTP port. And that's exactly what it is. Let's also change it to 22 and see what it is. So before the outcome should try to figure out if you can, what is going to be the response if you run the script. So if you run the script now, see the privileged port system, they load 1024 because it's not 80, it's not 443, and it's not greater than 1024. It's less than that. So it falls back to this last condition here. Okay? So that's that. We move on to part 4. So for part 4, we are going to be doing string and file conditional. And for that, we are going to be creating this file, the string file check file. By and then I give it this script. I save that. And then I run it. Okay, so let's start from the beginning of the script. So we gave this variable environment and we gave it the value production. So our script says if environment is production, then echo warning, this is production, so echo this. Else, if it's not, if it's staging, then echo this. Else, if it's unknown, then echo unknown environment, then echo whatever value that's it. That's it. Value. That's the variable, right? Okay. So exactly what he did, the product it says production at this point. So he actually gave us the very first one. Warning, this is it, right? Then the second part of the script says he gave this config file, and this is the config file for nginx. So this it says if the file config, if file is config, then echo config file found, right? Else echo config file missing, and then give us back this value right here, or whatever value that's here. Okay, so that's why the config file missing, and then we give us the config file. Why? Because this EC2 that I'm using right now doesn't have nginx installed on it yet. So we are going to install nginx and then we see what is going to show. And then the last part of the code or the script now says we gave a log directory and it's still nginx. So you can just figure out what that response is going to be. Because the log directory doesn't exist, it's going to echo log directory missing and give us the log directory part. And exactly what we got here, right? So now let's go ahead and install engine and run the same script again. We go at for y. Let's give that a minute run. So now let's run the script again. Yeah. So there you go. See that the output is different now. It says config file found. So config file before now it says config file missing, but now it says config file found. It also says log directory exists. The very first response. That's what we got because now we have project. Okay, let's move on to part 5, where we are going to be making decisions using exit code to make decisions. For that, we are going to create this exit code practice file using by manual, whichever works for you. And then we copy the code of the script in there. Now, so it's telling us echo checking if engine is installed, which engine, and then if our so the conditional comes in now, if our last command equals to 0, remember if the exit code is 0, that means it was successful, right? Then echo engine is installed. Else echo engine is not installed, right? And then we also the second part is checking if we made up command exists, which so this is the made up command. Of course, it's going to say that it's going to be an error code, an error exit code, because it's asking it also. If the error exit code, if the exit code is equal to 0, then echo found it. Else echo command not found as expected because this there's nothing like this, right? This is non-existent. So and exactly what it gives to us when we run it. So it is checking if nginx is installed, right? And then which engine. And then this question right here, this is a command. So if we go which engine, see it returns something, right? So the exit code is 0. So that's why you return engines is installed. It didn't say this. So next, this particular command doesn't exist. So we run on our terminal to run this command. We run this, didn't quite complete. You see, it gives us nothing, it returns nothing. So that's why when we give this conditional, if the last command is equal to 0, then say find it. If not, say command not found, and that's exactly what it is. So command not found as expected. Okay, and then we can also make that code neater by removing this portion of it and just simplifying it in this form. So it's still going to give us the exact same result as this. This is the longer version, and this is easier to understand. Okay? So, but for practice, we should do both. Now, let's move on to part 6, where we are combining condition with and or. So for that, we are going to create this file, combine conditions.sh. And here we'll be testing out this usage and the environment on our server. Okay, so let me create that file. Then okay, so if we run it, so we have this variable, this value. This user is the variable, and we give it the value 72, and then the environment, we also give it a value production. So now, if it and, so this is the ampersand sign, double ampersand sign means and in this situation, both conditions must be true for it to be true. So we are saying if this usage is greater than, this is GP is greater than 70, and environment is production, then echo this. So right now, this video is 72 and the environment is production. So definitely our result is going to be. Then another condition is the or, using the or. So we use this two type sign. So if the environment is production or if the environment is staging, then echo this. Right? So in this situation, the environment is production. So it's going to echo this. If we change it to staging, we will still echo this because this is or. And this is exactly what we got here when we ran the script. So our last production is above 70 because we put 72 right here. So now let's modify this in the script. And instead of production, let's use script. So we file in there, we update the file, change the value for the environment variable staging. Then we run the script. And there you go. You see that it didn't give us any output for this. Because even though this condition is true, this one isn't. And it's the ampersand sign is and which condition must be true for us to get an output. But it gave us for the or, because we put staging, that's why it still gave us. This is the managed environment. Change requires approval. What is supposed to be give for us right now. Okay, so now let's build our real ticket, which is part 7 of what we're doing. So for part 7, we've been asked to build a server health check script that checks the state and health of our server before an application is deployed to it. So for that, I'm going to create this health check.sh script file using vi, and then I'm going to use this script right here. So you can try practice writing some script by yourself on your own. Because of the length of the video, I usually like to finish um, within 30 minutes. That's why I already populated the script ahead. You can try modifying them and also writing from scratch and from a form of practice. Okay, so let's run this script. Okay, so the script, let's start. So the script says echo, so this is the first portion of the script. So first, once you say echo, it's going to give it back to you, whatever it told you. So VOH free deployment health check, and then of course you echo these design lines here. That's what you're seeing down here. And then health, you're giving this variable name health, and this is value 2. Okay, so now we start. Echo 1/3, checking engine status. It's going to echo this. And then we're asking if system CTL is active, dash as quiet engine. So this kind of this is standard error that's usually supposed to show on the screen, but we are silencing it. We are sending it inside the place that you don't want to see. You don't want to see it on our terminal. Okay, so if a system, so basically this script is saying the system CTL is active for Nginx, echo pass Nginx is running. And we know Nginx is running. So definitely that's why we got this right here. Else fail, Nginx is not running. Okay. So for this, health false, but we have health too because Nginx is running. So the second part of the script says echo 2/3, checking this usage. So this usage, this usage is this is the command. This three groups, they give us the last line of this command. So let's run the command here so that will make it a little bit more sense. If you run it here, you see this the root. So if you're asking me to give us this last line, that's the command tail -1. They were telling to give us the fifth column, which is the percentage of the disk. And then we're telling you to change the percentage sign, remove the percentage symbol. That's what we're telling you right here. So this value is what we're assigning to this variable, this usage. So now we're saying if this usage is less than 80, this is why we're trimming the percent. Because if we didn't trim it, this is not going to work. But this is not a percentage, it's just a number. So this trimming makes the percentage, which is 34, to become 34. So which makes the 34 percentage to become to respond to our query. Because we are looking at 80, not percent. There's no percent in the conditional, right? So if this usage is less than 80, then echo this right here, right? Then else echo this at above this. So based on what we have, we already told it, we already ran this command. I was saying that this usage is at 34, right? So we see that this usage is 34%. So see where the percent came back in. We assigned it here. And under threshold, right? So this particular else portion didn't run because this is already true. And then we move to the third portion of the script, which says echo 3/3, checking for 80. So if you run the call command and port 80 is responding, if you echo pass, port 80 is responding. And of course, our port 80 is responding because we enabled it, right? So this second portion, the else command didn't run. And that is what we got here. Port 80 is responding. Then the final decision is If health equals to true, then equal result. Server is healthy, close to the plot. And that is exactly what it is. Because both statements was true, right? Both statements were true. Okay. So that's how we got that. So that is that. So if we are to run echo, remember this is an echo command to try and see if what we ran is run successfully. We check that to see what was that. So our command was successful, and that is that. So let's stop engine and run the script again. Copy. So if you run the script again, let's get the command. So we see the response is different. Since Nginx is not running, this still returns what we need it to return because it doesn't really do with Nginx. And says post80 is not responding, and then it says server is unhealthy, deployment should not proceed. So you see the response is different. So you see how you can use this script to actually check the state of your infrastructure, your servers, and all of that. So if we should also check the exit code now, you see it gave us one, which is a non-zero response, saying that it's failed. So go ahead and document your work, know how to do that, take the file, make all the errors. The documentation is actually for you because 2 3 months down the line, sometime down the line, you might want to check out what you did and kind of refresh what you've learned so far. Or if you're already doing big more senior tech stuff, sometimes you still need to go back to the fundamentals. And this documentation is not going to help you. And you can actually push it to your GitHub. All right, thank you for watching and stay learning. Bye bye.